Friday. Well, today we will be talking about Derrick Rose and how he will be possibly moving to the Milwaukee Bucks, or the Cleveland Cavaliers, or the Los Angeles Lakers. Let's get right into this episode. So, first we're going to really talk about, what the Cavaliers' depth chart might look like, because I really want to dive into this because it looks like an insane depth chart. So at point guard, your obvious starter is Kyrie Irving. However, maybe you play Derrick Rose there and play Kyrie Irving at the shooting guard. Personally, I wouldn't, though, because really, who's the better point guard, Kyrie Irving or Derrick Rose? I'd really just try and play Derrick Rose at that shooting guard position. Try and play a two-guard type thing. Or you could try and play Derrick Rose at backup point guard, but I don't really think that Derrick Rose wants to play backup point guard for any NBA team. So backup point guard, you obviously have your Jose Calderon. So we have to see really how does Jose Calderon benefit this team. He's such a bad defensive player. However, offensively, he can give this team more firepower. Maybe give this team I don't think so, but he could give this team an offensive spark against a team like the Warriors. However, it's very unlikely. And then your third string point guard under Kyrie and Jose Calderon is Kay Felder. I think that Kay Felder, he's kind of like a D-League type player, but he's had two very good summer leagues in a row, so I feel like if a team gives him a chance, if the Cavaliers give him a chance, maybe he can start to work his way up. Maybe he can take over that second string point guard over Jose Calderon. Then at shooting guard, as I said before, what I would do is I'd play Derrick Rose at that shooting guard position, and then what you would do with Kyle Korver is move him to backup small forward, because you obviously at shooting guard you have J.R. Smith, you have Iman Shumpert, and if you got Derrick Rose, you also have Derrick Rose. So you'd probably start Derrick Rose, and then for your backup, you'd probably have J.R. Smith with a third string of Iman Shumpert, which looks very good for that shooting guard position because it's not really the best on the Cavaliers team. But if you throw Derrick Rose into this situation, it could look like one of the strongest, one of the deepest positions on this team. At small forward, as I said, you would have Kyle Korver as your second string small forward, and then obviously LeBron James, the king, plays your starting small forward. And then you have the backup. Your third string would actually probably be Richard Jefferson, he's getting older, so it's probably the best decision to make him third string. And then you have a European talent in Cedi Osman, who's coming in playing that small forward position. So it's going to be interesting to see how Cedi Osman does. Maybe he takes over Richard Jefferson's position as that small forward, or maybe they move him to power forward and play him at backup power forward. The Cavaliers have to test him out, see how he plays at that small forward position. Finally, you have you have power forward position, which is your final best player, final top three player in this team, with Kevin Love, because obviously you have the triple combo thing with Kevin Love, LeBron James, and Kyrie Irving. And then you could consider Derrick Rose that fourth star, but, you want to say he's an older MVP, like a washed-up MVP type player. Could be the only MVP to not go in the Hall of Fame. But so you have at power forward, you have that Kevin Love, and then as your backup, you have Channing Frye. Maybe you Cedi Osman, depending on how he plays. But for now, Channing Frye, best possible option, because you have Kevin Love starting. Obviously, he's a great three-point shooter. And then if you need defense, you'd bring in Jeff Green. He's probably the best defensive power forward here because you have Channing Frye and Kevin Love. They're both stretch fours, two of the best players to do it in the NBA at the stretch four. And then Jeff Green's a great defensive player as a third string, maybe a two string. We have to see what they do with Channing Frye and Jeff Green. And then at center, you have Tristan Thompson and Eddie Tavares. Eddie Tavares, a really tall player, great backup, see what he can do. Maybe get a free agency signing halfway through the season like they did with Deron Williams. Maybe get that at the center position. Obviously, they brought in players like Larry Sanders, but then he got injured, so we have to see what happens there. But Tristan Thompson's the main starter. So overall, I think starting for the Cavaliers, you have point guard, definitely Kyrie Irving, shooting guard, Derrick Rose, small forward, LeBron James, power forward, Kevin Love, center, Tristan Thompson. And then as your backups, I'd probably have Jose Calderon, I'd have J.R. Smith, Kyle Korver, Channing Frye, and then Eddie Tavares, but you may change that in the middle of the season. So that's the Cavaliers one. And now we have to move on to the Milwaukee Bucks. So obviously at point guard they have Malcolm Brogdon, Gary Payton, and one of the most overpaid players in the NBA, in Matthew Dellavedova. And then, so you have to really see, how do you fit Derrick Rose into the system? You don't want him playing that shooting guard position because Chris Middleton is obviously there, starting there, and you don't want to. He's playing good basketball, and a backup of Rashad Vaughn is a very good backup, and you don't want Derrick Rose interfering with minutes of those two quality players. So what I think you really do is the Milwaukee Bucks is probably the worst destination for Derrick Rose to go, because I feel like no matter what, he'd be playing that backup point guard, because Rookie of the Year Malcolm Brogdon, 100% you start him over Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is getting old. You want to give those young players those minutes. So you'd have Malcolm Brogdon, and then off the bench you'd have Matthew Dellavedova. And then as your third string, you'd have Gary Payton. He's probably coming up and down in the D-League throughout this whole season. We have to see how that plays out if he does go to the Bucks. However, I think it's the least possible option for Derrick Rose. Shooting guard, you'd obviously have Chris Middleton, Rashad Vaughn, and then maybe Sterling Brown plays. Maybe he goes to the D-League. We have to see what they do with Sterling Brown. Small forward, you have Tony Snell, you have Jabari Parker, and then you also have Giannis. However, what I would do, I'd play Jabari Parker as your starting small forward, and as your backup, you have Tony Snell. And then your power forward, that's where I played Giannis, because, Giannis can play all 5 positions. Really, point guard to power forward, because you have good centers, 1, and 2, he's probably just not at that height yet to play that center position, even though he does have a long wingspan and he can travel far with the matter of 2 steps. But small forward, you already have Jabari Parker, Tony Snell. Shooting guard, you already have Chris Middleton, and point guard, if you're getting Derrick Rose, you have him, Brogdon, and Dellavedova. So you really don't want to play Giannis anywhere but power forward, because the backup for power forward is actually Spencer Hawes, and then as your third string, you'd have Mirza Teletovic. And then so really you have Giannis starting, and then you have those 2 guys coming off the bench. And then finally for your center position, you have 3 good players, John Henson, Thon Maker, Greg Monroe. I definitely for here start Thon Maker, because Thon Maker, he's a up and growing talent. He's a possible all-star in the future, depending on, they have some age concerns with Thon Maker. But if he's the age he says he is, I think he's going to be an all-star in the future. No matter how him and Brogdon are 2 unexpected, out-of-nowhere signings for the team, or draftees for the team, I should say. And then back up, you have Greg Monroe, very overpaid player too, like Matthew Dellavedova. And then for your third string, you probably have John Henson. So that's the Bucks team. It's probably the weakest team for a player like Derrick Rose to go to, because he's going to get the least amount of minutes, and it's just not going to end. I don't think it will end well for a player of Derrick Rose's caliber, because you don't want to be competing with minutes with Matthew Dellavedova, and you have Matthew Dellavedova. And then you have the Rookie of the Year on your team, right? So they want to start the Rookie of the Year, and they have Malcolm Brogdon. You want to start Malcolm Brogdon. But then you also want to play Matthew Dellavedova some minutes. So you could end up as the third string in that position. And I don't think Derrick Rose wants to end up as the third string point guard. So we really have to see what happens there with the Bucks. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. There's been some crazy free agency signings so far. Finally, we have the Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers are trying to go after Derrick Rose. He just today had a 3-hour meeting with the Lakers, and he felt that was a very good meeting. And so this is definitely one of the top places, probably the top place on his list right now. But for me, I would love to see him go to the Cavaliers, because it would give them a great chance to compete with the Warriors team. And so he could be the starting point guard. We have to see how it plays out, if he would start or if Lonzo Ball would start. And so point guard, you obviously have your Lonzo Ball. You obviously have your Jordan Clarkson. But Jordan Clarkson, I'd probably move to shooting guard. So you have Derrick Rose, you have Lonzo Ball. Maybe you bring up Vanderbilt after his incredible Summer League season. You can bring him up from the G League, and you have Lonzo Ball, you have Jordan Clarkson, and Vanderbilt. So that's probably what that's probably what they'll do. They'll probably have Derrick Rose starting with Lonzo Ball off the bench, and Vanderblue playing third string point guard. However, Lonzo Ball may want to play starting point guard, so you may have to bring Derrick Rose there off the bench. At shooting guard, your obvious first option would be Jordan Clarkson because you've moved him from point guard to shooting guard. You can't move really Lonzo Ball to the shooting guard position. He can't shoot. You can't move Derrick Rose to the shooting guard position. He can't shoot. And we've seen over time with this Lakers team, the shooting guard position is not for a player to drive, not for a player. They don't really want to play that two-guard system. They have players like Swaggy P, Nick Young. So with those types of players, you really want to make that three, shoot that three. So for them, they'll probably start Jordan Clarkson at shooting guard with the backup of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, which was a good signing, however, a lot of money, 1 year, $18 million. And so for that shooting guard position, you would probably start Clarkson and then off the bench Caldwell-Pope. And then we have to see what they do with Josh Hart. Small forward position, you obviously will start Brandon Ingram, but we really have to see what they'll do with the backup small forward because they have Luol Deng, they have Corey Brewer, and they have Kyle Kuzma. So what I think they actually do is they play backup small forward, they play Kyle Kuzma because I really think he's going to develop into a good player for the Lakers. And they're not trying to win a championship now. They're just trying to rebuild, get those youth players in. So I think they're not really going to give any minutes to Luol Deng or Corey Brewer, but give all those minutes to the young players in Kyle Kuzma and Brandon Ingram. And the problem with Luol Deng and Corey Brewer, they probably going to have to. I don't know what the Lakers are going to do with Luol Deng and Corey Brewer because you cannot move him to the shooting guard position. You obviously have KCP, Jordan Clarkson. They won't get any minutes there. You won't move him to power forward position because who are they going to go in place of? Julius Randle or Larry Nance Jr.? Right? So I really think you start your Kyle Kuzma. And then at power forward, you have your Julius Randle who will start. He's had a massive offseason in terms of training. And that's a whole nother video on how massive his offseason has been. And I think he can be a possible breakout player in this next season, Julius Randle. And then the other breakout player possible is Larry Nance Jr. Larry Nance Jr. is a very flashy player, a player that Los Angeles fans really like because in that Los Angeles area, you want to see flair. You want to see dunks after dunks after dunks. Larry Nance Jr. can give that to you. Larry Nance Jr. is probably one of the most entertaining, if not the most entertaining player on the team, maybe besides Lonzo Ball. And then at center, you obviously want to start Brook Lopez. You traded him for deloading, and we'll have to see how D'Angelo Russell does at the New York Nets. And this could actually be a good trade because they did get Kyle Kuzma out of it. They did get that draft pick so they could take Kyle Kuzma. And we have to see, could this trade actually work out? You have your Brook Lopez, who's got freed from that horrible, horrible Brooklyn Nets team. He's been suffering with them for years, and I think Brook Lopez could be an all-star player if he was put into the right situation. However, he was put into the Brooklyn Nets situation, and look what happened to him. No one talked about him the whole season. It was a little bit about, Jeremy Lin, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Brook Lopez, they're all good. But Brook Lopez did have a really good season. He's hit many game winners for the Nets. He's that go-to guy for the Brooklyn Nets team. And back up, you have Ivica Zubac. So you have Zubac there as your backup, which is an extremely good backup for the team. Very young, a lot of talent. And then your third string is obviously Thomas Bryant. So you have a lot of youth in that team, and bringing in Derrick Rose would definitely teach Lonzo Ball, more about driving because Lonzo Ball's a great passer. But if he combined passing with Derrick Rose's skill of driving to the basket, he can become really an excellent player and really help his team, really help this Los Angeles team get better. So we have to see, how Derrick Rose does if he moves to the Lakers. And I think it's the number one option for him. However, I think the best fit would be going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that's where I'm hoping, as a fan of the NBA, I hope he goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers because there'd be more entertainment into the Warriors-Cavaliers series because as LeBron gets older, the Warriors get stronger. The series might become less entertaining than we expected this year. We almost saw a sweep last year if it wasn't for a historic game. So we really have to see what happens We really have to see where Derrick Rose goes in free agency. Will he end up at the Cleveland Cavaliers? Will he surprise me and go to the Milwaukee Bucks? Or will he go where I think he's going to go, to the Los Angeles Lakers? We really have to see, what exactly happens, where exactly he wants to go as a player, because it's down to him. So we really have to see. Thank you all for watching this. I'm going to wrap it up for today. My name's 4 Foot Nut, and on today's 4 Foot Friday, and thank you for watching. Goodbye!